It was almost surreal watching Donald Trump walk out of the White House, get on that helicopter, and fly away to oblivion. He went from the President of the United States to a Florida man in like an hour and a half. It was interesting to watch. First of all, where are you? And I know that we all are, or we all tend to be critics of Donald Trump. I totally get that. But put that aside for a minute and ask yourself, where is that guy today? Well, he's at Mar-a-Lago in Florida. What do you mean?
Yeah, he's watching Fox News in Mar-a-Lago in his mansion that the IRS is going to take, and he's probably got about 6 months till he's in prison.
It's a condo community that isn't allowed to have full-time residents, so of course he doesn't have a mansion. See, the drop machine works, William. You're welcome. But where is he mentally today? I think if I had to guess, Donald Trump is miserable. I think last night, one of the things that was so interesting is I sat on the couch with Mrs. Monty, and she was giddy and gleeful. She has no love lost for Donald Trump whatsoever. She was giddy and gleeful watching the inauguration.
Right.
And the parade across America and the concerts and the poetry and Anderson Cooper talking to the, Ms. Godwin, the poet.
Which she did an amazing job.
She did. But there was a palatable release of negativity in this country yesterday. And I don't know if that is, doom and gloom lifting. I don't know if that's strictly the fact that Donald Trump isn't the president of the United States anymore. That we have a black woman as the vice president of the United States. That we have a person in Joe Biden who stood up on a stage yesterday and told over 1,000 new White House employees, if I see you disrespect one of your coworkers, I'll fire you. When we've come out of 4 years of all the president of the United States has done is disrespect and fire his coworkers.
Yep.
Because it's never his fault. I felt like yesterday was almost a bloodletting of sorts. And I know that there are at least 74 million people in this country of 400 million?
Yeah.
There are 74 million people in this country who are hurting today, who are not happy that Joe Biden's president. I totally get that. But I don't think there's any way to doubt whether it was, Macron in France, leaders across the world breathing a huge sigh of relief yesterday because the U.S. rejoined the World Health Organization. And, I can't remember who said it. It may have been Merkel. I can't remember who said it. The lies have finally stopped.
Yeah.
We can get on with fighting coronavirus full force now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the thing that really stands out to me, Jake, is with all of this relief and this sense of doom and gloom lifting, it tells you that the United States of America is still a force globally. And it is still looked at as the difference maker in wars, in pandemics, in time of need. The United States still has a place internationally.
Yeah, I think it's just so clear that Donald Trump was the issue, not the country itself. And I think Donald Trump is somebody who was never really fit to be a president, but basically ran on the whole idea that he was going to make America great again, and he was going to do all these great things, and it's just all fake. It's all lies, and that's really the tough part with politics, especially in our country. Our one of our biggest issues as a country, in my opinion, is that our people are so gullible they'll believe anything, and so now we're at a point where we're seeing people crying on Twitter because Donald Trump is not in office anymore, which is just ridiculous to me. Yeah. So I don't know. I agree. There was a sense of like a new beginning, a sense of like, hey, we're back, like things are better now, and I hope that Joe Biden is able to get us past the pandemic, quickly, and quickly being the next, I would hope, 6 months.
But what about Sean Hannity last night? Because we all know that Sean Hannity is the source of truth and justice for all in this country. Sorry, I threw up in my mouth a little bit after I said that.
Right.
We all know that Sean Hannity is a Trump apologist. So Sean Hannity last night ripped Joe Biden because he called him senile and he said he was old and frail. And Sean Hannity spent a good portion of his program last night ripping Joe Biden because there's 400,000 people dead, Joe. Let's get to work.
Mm-hmm.
Well, wait.
Predictably,
go ahead.
meandered his way through what is a truly unremarkable, totally forgettable, even pre-rehearsed set of remarks. Let's be honest. The rest of the media mob, they were just flat out lying to the American people as per usual. This was not in any way, shape, manner, or form a memorable speech. It will not be talked about decades to come. Frankly, to be blunt, it's already forgotten. Even Bill Clinton seemed to be falling, it looks like he's nodding off there, take a look, asleep. Poor Bernie Sanders, he looked miserable and completely uninterested. I don't know, looks like he thought he was in Vermont. As I said on the radio this afternoon, the inaugural address sounded more like an uninspired student council, high school student council president acceptance speech from a guy who desperately was craving a nap. And of course, the main theme of the speech was unity. After 4 years of outright lying, conspiracy theories, witch hunts, one hoax after another, vitriol, nonstop hysteria, 2 impeachments, including one that is still unconstitutionally ongoing, Biden's hollow calls for unity are both laughable and completely disingenuous. Total and complete BS. Well, cheap, basically bumper stickers and old, worn-out liberal socialist cliche.
Like, what are we doing? What are we doing here? Like, when you're saying that Joe Biden was desperate for a nap yesterday, the guy was up at 5 a.m. He didn't go to bed until well after 1 a.m. Eastern.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I get it. Joe Biden's old. He's 78. It's funny to rip old people, I guess, if you're Sean Hannity. Okay, I get it.
Yeah.
We're really going to criticize Joe Biden for rehearsing his inauguration speech. So you're telling me he should just walk up there and free flow off the top of his head like Donald Trump had done for the last 4 years?
Like he did yesterday.
Yeah, like and completely wrecked himself multiple times? No. When you're a professional, which Sean Hannity is not, but when you're a professional and you speak for a living, you rehearse. You know what you're going to say before you say it. Because when you don't know what you're going to say before you say it, bad things happen.
All right, so here's a snippet of Donald Trump's speech at the airbase yesterday. Just listen. He's free-flowing. There's no teleprompters here, just free flow Donald Trump.
I will always fight for you. I will be watching, I will be listening, and I will tell you that the future of this country has never been better. I wish the new administration great luck and great success. I think they'll have great success. They have the foundation to do something really spectacular. Mm-hmm. And again, we put it in a position like it's never been before, despite...
Okay, wait. You put it in a position like it's never been before. There is no... One of the things that came out yesterday, there's no plan in the federal government for distributing the vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
None. Zero. There was no... Like, he talked about this, what do they call it, warp speed?
Yeah, Operation Warp Speed.
There was no warp speed.
Yeah.
There never was a... There was a name. There never was a plan.
Right.
They don't have a plan for rolling it out. He talks about how he left it in good shape. Donald Trump did something where he embedded his employees in intelligence and justice. 3 days before he left office, he appointed by direction a dozen employees. And now it came out yesterday because they suspended several of them. It came out that the only reason he put these people in these places is because they don't want the transcript or the recording of his call with the Ukrainian president released.
Mm-hmm.
And 2 of these assets that Donald Trump had put in the Justice Department were flagged for accessing the Ukrainian files, the file on the Ukrainian investigation.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how they got caught, because they were trying to, essentially hide those files.
Right.
So when you say, we left him in a place where come on, guy, are you kidding me? We're 3 million jobs down. Yeah. From the day, how many people realize this? We talk about the economy and we talk about, Donald Trump's success on the economy. And do you realize that we are 3 million jobs less? 3 million jobs less today than the day that Donald Trump took office. And if we're really being honest, look at what was left for the last two Democratic occupants of the White House. And it was, to a large extent, 2008 was not W's fault. Mm-hmm. I think the wars, obviously, you could talk about. The housing bubble was not George Bush's fault.
Right.
But what did Barack Obama walk into? The worst stock market crash we've ever seen. One of the worst economies we've ever seen. Certainly, up until now, one of the worst depressions we'd ever seen.
Right.
Now you have Joe Biden coming in the middle of a pandemic where the previous administration absolutely positively did nothing to stem the tide of the spread of the coronavirus in this country, to the point where most staffers in the White House got coronavirus, and it was such a project, they had to wait because the Trump administration and staff would not leave 2 days early so that they could disinfect the White House.
Right.
They wouldn't leave until they had to leave the day before the inauguration, so they had to spend millions of extra dollars just to get people in place to disinfect, if you will, the White House.
Yeah.
Because they all had coronavirus and none of them would wear masks.
Right.
So what's the first thing that Joe Biden did? He put in a mask mandate on all federal property. You must wear a mask and you must socially distance.
Yeah.
Like, this is not rocket science.
Yeah.
So, we have Donnie sitting up there talking about how no administration's ever been left so good in such a good position. It continues this Sean Hannity, Donald Trump pattern of just straight lying.
Yeah.
There is no proof. Sean Hannity last night blamed Joe Biden for coronavirus. Joe Biden wasn't the president. He immediately took action related to the spread of coronavirus.
Right.
Today he has said day 2 is all about coronavirus. He's already got the fact that the Congress and the Senate have not confirmed any of his cabinet picks before he took office. And by the way, they confirmed one yesterday, his national director of intelligence, right? He has no confirmations. But now, hopefully, when he has a 50-50 control of the Senate, he's got control of the House just narrowly. Hopefully, he's able to get these confirmations done in a quick order so that he can staff up. Donald Trump made it impossible for him to staff up ahead of time.
Right. Yeah.
Right? But Sean Hannity is going to lie about that.
Right.
Sean Hannity is continuing to spout off about the great steal and the fraud. And come on. At what point do we stop saying that it was a Russian hoax? At what point do we stop lying and covering for Donald Trump?
Yeah.
When does that happen?
I don't know. I mean, it's kind of weird because Fox News had kind of come around a little bit, and they had stopped doing this stuff, and then now Hannity's back to it. So I don't know.
I think at some point, and the ratings certainly have flipped. Fox News has dominated the cable news ratings for years now. All of a sudden, that completely flipped. And when you started looking at election night coverage, all of that coverage was won by CNN.
Yeah.
You look at the insurrection 2 weeks ago, all of that coverage was in a landslide. Was won by CNN. You look at the inaugural, my guess is and mainly because Fox News didn't cover a good part of it.
Yeah.
Sean Hannity's standing up there talking about how the speech was boring and insignificant.
Yeah.
There was nothing special about it. Yet the rest of the country and the rest of the media, including your conservative friends on Fox News, said it was exactly what the country needed.
And here's a snippet right here.
Every disagreement doesn't have to be a cause for total war. And we must reject the culture in which facts themselves are manipulated and even manufactured. In another January, on New Year's Day in 1863, Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation. When he put pen to paper, the president said, and I quote, "If my name ever goes down into history, it'll be for this act, and my whole soul is in it." My whole soul is in it. Today, on this January day, my whole soul is in this. Bringing America together, uniting our people, uniting our nation. And I ask every American to join me in this cause. We must end this uncivil war that pits red against blue. Rural versus urban, or rural versus urban, conservative versus liberal. We can do this if we open our souls instead of hardening our hearts, if we show a little tolerance and humility.
Yeah.
Few
I just don't understand how you can say that that's not exactly the speech that we needed in this country.
Yeah.
When you're talking about the fact, his line about how not every argument needs to lead to war.
Yeah.
I mean, that's exactly what this country is, that we need to end this civil war that we have. Exactly right. Stever was messaging with me last night. Headband Stever, as he is latched onto. He was telling me essentially, and he gave me permission, not that I ever get to message him back, of course, but he essentially said, you can say, because I always say on the show, I don't know what I can read of yours and not, because Stever is a special forces guy, but he essentially said, back home in Arizona, because we had nothing to do. And the good news is, they had nothing to do on Inauguration Day because there was no rioting. Outside of Portland, Oregon, there was really no rioting. Mm-hmm. We're at a point in this country where we've got to stop this nonsense with these civil wars, and we've got to stop this nonsense. Like, there's all of this concern now about these congressmen who were giving tours, or they had their staff give tours, allegedly, the day before the insurrection. On January 5th, they were giving tours. The insurrection was January 6th.
Right.
And what is so crazy is that you had one of these new Congress people tweeting out that Nancy Pelosi has been evacuated from the House chamber. Well, it turns out that she is a QAnon supporter, and she was at the rally. She was at the riot that got out of control, and she's tweeting about locations. And there's allegations that her staff was touring people around the Capitol. Yeah. And I'm intentionally not saying this woman's name because it hasn't been proven that there have been no charges. They're looking at video and of guest logs, and they're trying to connect the dots. But when you're at the rally and you are tweeting out information saying, hey, Nancy Pelosi's been moved, why would you be tweeting that out?
Yeah.
Other than to say, hey, by the way, everybody who's in there, because we now know that they use Telegram and they use, I can never remember the name of that social media, that Parler, and they use Twitter to communicate. And there she is on Twitter, Nancy Pelosi's been moved.
Yeah. Yeah.
How did they, because I don't know how many people have ever been to the Capitol, how many people have actually been to Congress. It is not like you walk in and there's not a sign that says turn left to get to the House and turn right to go to the Senate.
Hey, and Nancy Pelosi's desk is right down there.
Yeah, like it's hard to get around the Capitol. Like it is a confusing building by design.
Yeah.
And it worked to perfection, right? Thank God that cop misled those rioters because they'd have had the vice president.
Amazing act of service.
They'd have had the vice president. But you start to understand when those people knew exactly how to get to Speaker Pelosi's office and right down to the Senate floor, this was not an accident.
No.
This was not
It was
an
planned,
accident.
it was executed, and they just failed.
Do you feel better about our country today?
Yeah, I mean, I feel better globally, sure, that that we have a more reasonable leader in place. I'm not going to sit here and be the guy who evangelizes for Joe Biden. I think he's the guy that we need right now, but I don't think he's certainly the best candidate that the Democrats can put out. And I hope that this isn't a whole deal where it's just like, oh, well, Kamala, is the vice president.
It's Kamala Harris, please.
Kamala is the vice president.
I heard again yesterday that it is racially insensitive to call her Kamala.
Kamala Harris is the vice president of the United States.
But that's where we are in this country.
It's ridiculous. It's a name. People say names differently depending on who you ask.
Well, and
it's not a racial attack to mispronounce someone's name.
The conservative wing of our government during the election process intentionally mispronounced her name.
Right.
And did so as an insult. But anyway, here nor there. The proof is in the pudding.
Yeah. Yeah.
And today's a big day.
Yeah.
The announcements, I mean, putting, Dr. Fauci in charge of the pandemic in this country and making him the liaison to the World Health Organization. Well, now it's time to put up or shut up because we are long past the point of, hey, how are we going to fix this? We need vaccines in in hundreds of millions of Americans' arms.
Yeah.
Joe Biden has said that he would like to do 100 million vaccines in the first 100 days. Well, it's time to live up to that.
Yeah.
And we need to figure out how to do that.
Yeah, and I the difference is I trust that he'll be able to do it. I don't trust that Donald Trump would have been able to do it. I think the biggest difference is like, Joe Biden, is competent. Like that's the thing. Like I can honestly say that I believe Joe Biden is competent enough. I don't know if 100 million in the first 100 days is realistic. I would guess it is because Joe Biden's not the guy who just says stuff just to say things. His brand has been all about, hey, we're going off science and numbers. So he wouldn't just. I highly doubt he'd just throw out the 100 million number if they couldn't.
Well,
do it.
One of the things he's already done is he's already said he's going to use the Defense Production Act.
Yeah.
He is going to force companies to produce, PPE that's going to protect our healthcare workers. He has already talked about frontline workers and including teachers getting vaccinations first, as they should. He has talked about the fact that he wants kids back in school in the first 100 days so the parents can go back to work and the economy can get back moving.
Yeah.
But the only way to do that is to make sure that the vaccine is rolled out and that PPE is available to teachers and frontline workers. And he has mandated that there is a certain level of mask that needs to be worn. Like he's doing all these things, but he has a plan. They didn't. And this is something that I think the Trump administration never was able to get their hands around. You can't just say we're going to use the Defense Production Act and not know how to use it and not know the net effect of using it.
Right.
Joe Biden's already been through this. He has the experience.
Yes.
When he says we're going to use the Defense Production Act to create more and make sure we deliver the right kind of PPE, he's going to do that.
Yeah, and I think his time as vice president with Obama is going to prove extremely valuable, and that's why I say like he's competent. He knows what he's doing. He knows like again, and this is the biggest difference. And it's not about whether you agree with his politics or not. The point just is he has a plan and he's going to do everything that he can do to execute it. Where Donald Trump didn't even have a plan.
You got to get that vaccine into people. You've got to get it into our arms. It has to happen.
Yep.
And he's already talking about trying to service everybody who's 55 and older within the first 100 days, which would be a huge step forward.
Yeah.
Making sure that 55 and older frontline workers, law enforcement, teachers, medical workers, that they all get it, that they all get the equipment they need. Like now it's time to act and produce, because if Joe Biden doesn't produce, the Democrats are going to lose the midterms.
Right.
And he has got both houses of Congress. I mean, the Democrats have the White House and both houses of Congress. It's time to leverage that.
Yeah, you got to do it.
Yeah. And I also think that Donald Trump, again, damaged the Republicans because he has shown that you can do things through executive order. Now, it's certain things, and he lost a lot of ability in a lot of court fights over it. Mm-hmm. But, the other thing, and I know we got to go, but the other thing that I think is really frustrating to me is in Arizona, our mountains on the southern border are to be treasured. And yesterday, and really what is just an act of defiance by the contractors because they want to get paid, they continued blowing up mountains because they're building the wall on these mountains on the southern border in Arizona. And so yesterday, it was incredibly disappointing to see that our free ranges were being destroyed by dynamite and demolition crews because they wanted to get paid, knowing damn well that they were not going to ever put a wall where they were blowing that up.
Right.
And you're just destroying mountains and habitats, and it's really frustrating. The whole thing is really frustrating. So, because by the way, Joe Biden signed an executive order ending funding and ending the construction process for the wall, but that's going to take, I think it goes into effect 30 days.
Yeah.
You have to give a notice.
So there's time.
So there's time for them to spend, to work so they get paid.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's incredibly frustrating.
Politics.
So, yeah, it is what it is. And you need to follow us on Twitter and Instagram, The Monty Show, Monty, The Monty Show. Like and subscribe to our channel on YouTube. Guess what it is? I know you're shocked. It's The Monty Show. Monty, anywhere you get a podcast, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, The Monty Show, Monty, The Monty Show notification. Of course, you can find Jake, SLC Supercars on Twitter. and Instagram. Until tomorrow, say good luck, Joe.
Good luck, Joe.